Hey guys, welcome to Dylan's Little Hobbies, and today I'm going to be doing a video about a theory of mine about why All Might has a muscle form and why Midoriya doesn't have one, doesn't need one, but can get one. Okay, so the fact is, everybody has an opinion on this, and I'm pretty much going to just share mine. I'm going to share my theory. I don't know if it's correct. I don't know if I'm completely off. I simply don't know. But I think this is going to be a fun video, so I hope you guys do enjoy. And if it ends up being wrong, well, guess what? It ends up being wrong. So, the fact is, All Might has a muscle form and a skinny form. And the question is, why does he have that? Now, I could go into the entire thing about the fact that his muscle form symbolizes what All Might really is, and the skinny form symbolizes who he really is, what he looks at himself and everything, but that's not what this video is about, okay? What this video really is about is there an in-universe answer to why All Might has a muscle form and why Deku does not? And I think I have an answer, so let's get into this, okay? So what do we know about All Might? We know that he has a muscle form, and we know that he has a regular skinny form, and what people need to realize is, according to All Might, the skinny form is his main form. It's his original form. Meaning, that's how he originally looked. Now, he didn't look like a skeleton, however. We all know that All Might looks like a skeleton. But we have seen in a couple spoilers here and there for you anime onlys. I'm not going to be giving anything away that's incredibly big, but if you don't want to hear any spoilers at all, then don't watch this video. But we know that All Might, when he was in his younger days, he looked like a normal person. He wasn't super big, he wasn't super buff, he just looked like Deku when we first met him, okay? He was just a normal kid, okay? It was a quirkless kid. No muscle form, no powers at all, and he didn't look like a skeleton when he was a kid, okay? That came from, of course, his injuries that happened later on with the fight. We know from episode 2, we know that he was in a really big fight that gave him a terrifying, absolutely awful injury, and that's why he looks like a skeleton. But he didn't look like a skeleton his entire life. That's just what I want to make clear. However, when All Might would have met his master, I'm pretty sure his master would have trained him, and similar to Deku, he would have buffed up pretty easily. And what I mean by buffed up, I don't mean his buff form. I mean, let's face it, Midoriya looks pretty ripped, and even All Might in his skeletal form has a six-pack. He's still pretty ripped, even though he looks like a skeleton. Okay, so let's make that clear. Okay, now why does All Might have a muscle form? And I think I have an answer, and it all has to do with the quirk that both All Might and Deku have, and how All Might uses it differently than Deku. Okay, so the fact is, the quirk One for All has two main abilities, as far as we know. The first ability is that it can be transferred by DNA. The second ability, because it was the way it was formed was a combination of two quirks, and that second quirk was the ability to stockpile power. Stockpile power, okay? That's important. What if the whole thing about All Might turning into the muscle form is because of the stockpile power? Like, we know that All Might's master had a quirk. We just don't know what that quirk was. What if her quirk was the transformation into the muscle form? And that just carried on along with the transfer of One for All. Meaning, every time One for All gets passed, if that person had a quirk before it, they gain they gain that quirk. So the whole thing about All Might with the superpowers and the wind smashing, let me say that, the wind smashing abilities that he has were probably just quirks that the second, third, and fourth user had. And we don't know what his master's quirk is, but even if it wasn't her, maybe somebody in the past did have the ability to transform into a more muscular form, like they had the ability to control how muscular they got, similar to how Musclehead has a power, and it just carried along down the gene. Now, the question here is, okay, if that's the case, why does Deku not have a muscle form? And is he going to get a muscle form? You know, and some people I've heard some theories and had some thoughts of my own, that perhaps it's because Midoriya can only use a certain amount of his power, but that doesn't make sense, and here's why. Even if the muscle form needs 50% of All Might's power, let's just say that, Midoriya has already gone 100% several times, so why doesn't he have a muscle form? And I think it's all thanks to All Might himself. It's all thanks to what All Might said in the second episode when he first undid the transformation and Midoriya found out his secret. Remember what All Might said. All Might said, you know all those guys at the pool, when they get out of the pool, they try to suck in their gut and try to flex up? In fact, I'm doing it right now. They try to flex up and look all buff. He said it's very similar to that. I think All Might just gave us the answer right there. What is Midoriya doing? He's using the quirk One for All, but he's not sucking in his gut. If he sucked in his gut, and of course clenched his buttocks at the same time, because that's how One for All apparently works, if he did that, then I believe that he would have gotten a muscle form. Does he need it? No. I think the entire muscle form for All Might was probably just to give him somewhat of a secret identity. Not to mention, it really makes a good storyline for All Might. I mean, it's that whole Superman thing, you know? Superman, this big superhero who pretty much only has, as far as I know, one downfall to his powers, and that's his kryptonite. But he doesn't carry that all the time, so Superman becomes a boring character. However, All Might has his kryptonite every single day with his injuries. So I think the whole transformation thing, number one, it could also be just played as a joke, because it is actually pretty funny. I mean, remember that scene in, I think, episode, was it 2 or 3? I think it's episode 2, when All Might comes out front on the corner, and he's all big, rough, and tough, and trying to say, I am All Might, and then poofs back with blood spilling out of his mouth. God, I love My Hero Academia. It was just so funny. But anyway, yeah, essentially, my theory is that somewhere along the line, by the way, if you don't know, All Might is the 8th user, while Deku is the 9th user. Somewhere down the line, the other 7 users that came before All Might probably had the ability to buff up, and now All Might has it, and all he needs to do is suck in the guts to gain that power. And all Deku needs to do, which he hasn't and doesn't need to do, is suck in the guts and hold that power, you know? And the reason why it's very important that All Might can do it and Deku can't is because we've seen time and time again that Deku doesn't have full control of his power and he needs to learn how to use it. Now, here's another little bit of a spoiler from the manga. All Might, we've heard from All Might that almost from day one, he could control all aspects of One for All. He mastered One for All almost immediately, okay? And that's really important. And, you know, to hold his transformation for, I think he holds it for, like, what they say from the beginning, like 3 hours a day. If he's holding that transformation for the entire day, you know, sucking in his breath, I don't think he's doing that for the entire day. I think when he, you know, actually goes to sleep or something, or wakes up and, you know, eats a bowl of cereal, before, of course, he had his injuries, I believed he was in his normal form, but to hold his muscle form, even if he held it out of 24 hours a day, let's say 18 hours a day, out of the 24 hours that we have in a day, say he held that form for 18 hours a day. Holding your breath, sucking in your gut, this is not easy to do all day, especially, it almost seems like he has to hold his breath to do it. This, if I just did this all day, this would probably be annoying, and I'm doing it right now. I know it doesn't look like it, but if I just went like this all day, oh god, just think of how if you just did that all day, just think of how annoying that would be on your muscles, just to hold them up all day long, like this. I mean, and the fact that he's able to do that constantly all day, that's pretty amazing to me. And that's the difference between him and Deku. Perhaps Deku can get a muscle form if he sucks in the guts. Fact is, he doesn't need to. It's just a part of the quirk. Now, here's the hole in my theory, okay? And this is kind of a big hole in my theory. So, All Might, we know he has said that he's quirkless, and some people have theorized, well, he's lying because he has a muscle form. I don't think he's lying. However, if the muscle form does have anything to do with the power One for All, well, here, and a big spoiler for the anime. Like I said, don't watch this video if you are an anime only. We know after the big battle with One for All, I mean All for One, he doesn't have One for All anymore. The embers have completely left him, according to All Might. Perhaps that's not the case. Perhaps he has an ember or two left, he just really can't fight with it. Like he has ashes now. He really can't stand up and fight with it. But All Might still has the muscle form after he loses all of his power. So, what's going on? Does he still have, like, ashes? Not necessarily embers, but ashes of the power, and that's why he's able to transform, but he seriously just can't fight? We know he can't hold that form for more like a second or so. He can't hold that form very long at all. His injuries are they're too tough on him now. So what is going on? We simply just don't know. We have no explanation. If All Might never transformed after losing One for All, then my theory would still be correct. That is the only plot hole in my theory, and I just don't know how to answer it other than perhaps All Might has, like, ashes of One for All and can still transform but really can't fight anymore because of his injuries. He can still buff up and hold that form, but he really can't fight in that form anymore. I don't know. It's a theory. Also, we do know that we are going to get a young All Might in the My Hero Academia movie, and he seems to have a muscle form in that movie as well. So it very well could be that I'm completely wrong with my theory, and that All Might originally did look like muscle form All Might his entire life, except when he was a kid. Um, and then after his injuries, then he received his skinny form. That could be the case. We simply just don't know, but there's two big plot holes for you in my theory, and I'm not gonna lie, they're plot holes. I really have no explanation for that. However, if we see young All Might in the movie, skinny form and then transform into the muscle form, still looking very young, then of course my theory is absolutely correct. So apparently we just need to wait for the movie to come out to really confirm whether or not my theory holds up or not. But without further ado, that is my theory on All Might. Thank you guys for watching, and I'm out. Bye!